You open your phone and it hits you again. Smiling faces, group photos, inside jokes in the comments. Everyone seems connected. Everyone seems chosen. And for a second, you feel that quiet comparison creeping in. Why does it look so easy for them? Why does it feel different for you? What if nothing is wrong with you? Maybe you've asked yourself the uncomfortable question, is something wrong with me? Why do I have so few friends? Why does socializing drain me instead of energize me? But what if the reason you have few or no friends isn't because you're broken, but because you're wired differently? Today, we're breaking down 7 rare traits often found in people who walk alone. But be careful. Not all of them are advantages. You don't just hear what people say. You watch what they do. When someone says, "I'm happy for you," but their smile tightens for half a second, you notice. When a friend claims loyalty but disappears the moment it's inconvenient, you log it. Words matter to most people. Patterns matter to you. Psychologists call this thin slicing, the ability to draw accurate conclusions from small behavioral cues. A shift in tone, a delayed response, a micro-expression that flashes and vanishes. Your brain connects these fragments automatically. You're not trying to analyze people. You just can't turn it off. And that's where the problem begins. Small talk becomes exhausting because you're processing layers beneath the surface. A simple conversation feels like decoding hidden subtext. While others relax into the moment, you're tracking inconsistencies between behavior and intention. People sense this. They feel observed, exposed, not judged necessarily, just seen too clearly. And most people are uncomfortable being seen without their mask. So they drift away, or they label you intense. But seeing clearly comes with a cost. You don't hate people. You hate shallow conversation. After 10 minutes of talking about the weather, office drama, or celebrity gossip, you feel drained. Not bored, depleted. That's often a sign of what psychologists call a high need for cognition, a personality trait linked to people who naturally crave complex ideas, meaningful debate, and mental stimulation. You'd rather talk about philosophy, strategy, psychology, the future, than who said what about who. You're energized by depth. You want conversations that stretch you, not ones that pass the time. The problem is simple math. Most social interaction operates at the surface level because it's safe. Depth requires vulnerability, curiosity, and intellectual effort. And not everyone wants that. So your social pool shrinks. But here's the important distinction. This isn't arrogance. Arrogance says, "I'm smarter than everyone." Cognitive depth says, "I'm wired to seek substance." It's not about superiority. It's about stimulation. Still, when you opt out of shallow exchanges, people interpret it differently. And this is where most people misunderstand you. Humans are wired for the herd. Belonging once meant survival. Agree with the group, stay safe. Disagree, risk exile. That instinct is still alive today, just dressed up as social norms and group dynamics. In the 1950s, psychologist Solomon Asch ran a series of conformity experiments. Participants knowingly gave wrong answers about simple line lengths just to match the group. Not because they were stupid, but because fitting in felt safer than being right. Most social circles still operate this way. They don't announce the rules, but they enforce them. Laugh at this, dislike that person, share this opinion, show up when expected, agree even if you're unsure. You struggle with that. When something doesn't make sense, you feel friction. When a belief sounds hollow, you question it, not to rebel, not to dominate, just because your mind doesn't easily outsource judgment. And groups sense that. Nonconformists disrupt emotional equilibrium. So they're often subtly sidelined, not attacked, just excluded. Not because they're better, but because they don't bend easily. But resisting the herd can turn you into something unexpected. While others focus on tonight, your mind jumps 5 years ahead. You don't just see the moment, you simulate outcomes. If I build this habit, where does it lead? If I ignore this red flag, what happens later? That kind of long-term thinking changes how you move. It makes you cautious with your time, selective with your energy, careful with your commitments. You value delayed gratification. You'll sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term stability. You'll skip the party if it means protecting your momentum. To someone impulsive, that looks boring. To you, it's strategic. And this is where the disconnect begins. When your peers say, just live a little, you're thinking about consequences. When they chase trends, you're thinking about trajectory. It feels like you're running on a different timeline. But let's ground this. Future-oriented thinking can overlap with anxiety. Constantly scanning for outcomes can create tension. It's not always a superpower. Sometimes it's hyper-awareness turned inward. Still, it makes you different. You're less reactive, more calculated. And when you combine foresight with silence, something psychological happens. There's a concept from psychologist Carl Jung called the shadow. It refers to the parts of ourselves we reject: insecurity, envy, fear, weakness. Instead of confronting those traits internally, we unconsciously project them onto other people. And quiet, self-contained individuals often become the perfect screen. When you're not constantly performing, oversharing or seeking approval, people have less external data to define you. So they fill in the blanks. If someone feels insecure around you, they may assume you're judging them. If they feel inadequate, they may label you arrogant. You didn't say anything. You didn't do anything. But your silence reflects their inner dialogue back at them. This isn't mystical. It's psychological defense. The ego protects itself by externalizing discomfort. It's easier to say, I don't like them, than to ask, why do I feel threatened? That's why you may have experienced random hostility or subtle dislike without clear cause. You became the mirror. But here's where this path becomes dangerous. Some people need applause to move. You don't. There's a psychological concept known as the autotelic personality, a term popularized by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. It describes individuals who find meaning in the activity itself, not the reward attached to it. You work because the work matters. You train because growth feels necessary. You read because curiosity pulls you in. That internal engine changes everything. You don't rely heavily on external validation. Compliments are nice, but they're not fuel. Attention doesn't control you. And because of that, common manipulation tactics, approval, exclusion, social pressure, lose their power. You're comfortable alone, not because you hate people, but because solitude doesn't threaten your identity. But here's the shadow side. Extreme self-sufficiency can slowly become emotional avoidance. I don't need anyone can turn into I won't let anyone close. Independence is strength until it becomes armor. There's a thin line between sovereignty and isolation. And now we reach the trait almost nobody talks about. You don't let many people in. Not because you can't connect, but because you filter aggressively. You value quality over quantity. One honest conversation means more to you than 10 surface-level interactions. Loyalty matters, integrity matters, emotional stability matters. And the moment you sense chaos, manipulation, or inconsistency, you step back. That level of selectivity protects your peace, but it also creates long, empty stretches. When your standards are high, your options shrink. You might go months, some even years, without meeting someone who truly aligns. And during those quiet periods, doubt can creep in. So here's the uncomfortable checkpoint. Are these standards real, or are they armor? Are you filtering for compatibility, or filtering to avoid vulnerability? There's a difference. One is discernment, the other is defense. High standards are powerful when they're rooted in clarity. They become destructive when they're rooted in fear. This is where many people fall into a trap. Here's the part most videos won't tell you. If you're not careful, solitude can slowly mutate. What begins as discernment can harden into superiority. You stop saying, I haven't found my people, and start saying, there are no people worth finding. That shift is subtle, but dangerous. Isolation can become an echo chamber. With no one close enough to challenge you, your perspective starts reinforcing itself. Every failed connection becomes proof that you're different. Every disagreement becomes confirmation that others are shallow. And bitterness can disguise itself as depth. I'm just more aware. I just see what others don't. Maybe. But sometimes I'm different becomes a shield against rejection. A defense mechanism that protects the ego from the risk of intimacy. Romanticizing loneliness feels empowering in the short term. It gives meaning to the emptiness. But long term, it can shrink your world instead of expanding it. You don't want to escape the herd just to build a prison of your own. So what's the right way to handle this wiring? Here's the upgrade. Step 1. Accept your wiring without glorifying it. You may prefer depth, you may resist conformity. That's fine. But don't turn it into an identity badge. Self-awareness is power. Ego attachment is weakness. Step 2. Develop social calibration. You don't have to love small talk, but learn to navigate it. Think of it as a bridge, not a destination. Practice listening without analyzing. Practice warmth without performance. Depth lands better when it's delivered with ease. Step 3. Build signal strength. Instead of chasing connection, increase your value. Develop mastery. Sharpen your communication. Improve your health. When you grow, you emit clarity. Like-minded people recognize that frequency. Step 4. Seek environment, not approval. Don't try to fit into rooms that drain you. Change rooms. Communities shape compatibility. Sometimes you're not incompatible with people. You're incompatible with your surroundings. Step 5. Prioritize quality over frequency. You don't need constant social contact. You need aligned contact. One strong connection outweighs 10 weak ones. This wiring isn't a curse. It's a responsibility. Use it wisely. Having few friends doesn't mean you're broken. And it doesn't mean you're superior either. It means you're selective. It means compatibility matters more to you than proximity. It means noise exhausts you and depth energizes you. That's not a flaw. It's wiring. But remember, the goal isn't isolation. It's alignment. The goal isn't to prove you're different. It's to find resonance without shrinking yourself in the process. You don't need a crowd. You need clarity. You don't need constant connection. You need real connection. Depth will always reduce quantity. That's the trade. So if your circle is small right now, don't panic. Don't inflate it. Build yourself. Sharpen your signal. Maybe you're not alone. Maybe you're just early.